Hello friends, this is Worm, and it's Tuesday, which means it's time for another episode of Hot Take Tuesday. And today I want to talk about Lightfall, and I want to talk about why Lightfall really wasn't as bad as a lot of people say it was and think it was. Because if you go on store reviews, you know, the Steam store review, for example, it's flooded with a ton of negative reviews and a lot of people saying, Destiny bad, hope it dies, blah, blah, blah. There was very little like actually helpful reviews in there that tell me why it was bad. It was just people being mad and salty. So I went back and I started thinking about everything that came with Lightfall and stuff like that. And I started thinking, I was like, man, it really wasn't that bad. Like, everybody's saying it's the worst DLC in Destiny 2 and blah, 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 you know, and it's like, it would be like Lightfall was just like this expansion that just shouldn't have happened. And I kind of disagree with that. So let's go ahead and talk about, first of all, what is included in Lightfall and what is not included in Lightfall. Of course, the things that are included with Lightfall, the storyline that came with Lightfall, obviously, the new planet, Neomuna, the raid, Root of Nightmares, the exotic weapons and armor that, of course, are specific to Lightfall, so your Strand exotics and stuff like that. Of course, the legendaries that would come with Neomuna and, of course, Strand, the actual new subclass itself. And the stuff that's not included in Lightfall would be stuff like from the season of Defiance, I believe was that season. That's not really included in in Lightfall. That was something that was accessible to all players and stuff like that. So with that being said, I want to start off, and I'm just going to go down this list and kind of talk about each one of these. I think that the reason why so many people hate on Lightfall was due to the narrative, and that's it. And I know, like, as a Destiny player, like, a solid narrative is very, very important to an expansion or to to something in the game. Like, if you have a story, a season with a bad storyline, it's not really gonna, it's not gonna do much. But I think there were only a couple of things that really made the narrative bad. Starting off, I want to start with the characters here. I think that the characters, they really did some of the characters dirty. Starting off with Rohan, of course, being the senior Cloud Strider, whatever. They did him so dirty because, because they made him cliche. He was the standard, like, one day before retirement, clocking out, whatever you want to call it. We just have one more mission for you to do. And then he died. Like, there was not a whole lot of like substance to his character. Like, we didn't get a lot of detail into him. He just seemed to almost be a background character, and that was really disappointing. Okay, so that's one of the first parts. The second part, Nimbus. I think Nimbus gets more hate than they deserve. And the reason why, yes, Nimbus is an annoying character. I think that Bungie really overdid it on how obnoxious of a character that they are. But at the end of the day, their character's really not half bad. It's really not. Like, outside of the annoyingness that they have, they're not a horrible character. Osiris, of course, was another character that was prominent throughout Lightfall. And Osiris, I feel like they also did Osiris pretty dirty. Osiris formerly was this really awesome character. He had a lot of lore, they did him very well all throughout the game, with the exception of Lightfall. And in Lightfall, it almost felt like they turned Osiris into just a crazy, rambling old man. Like, he lost his ghost and now he's going crazy. And I feel like that was such a negative thing to do. But outside of those three things, okay, Callus was a great character. Callus was a fantastic enemy, a fantastic boss. The storyline, the actual story missions of Lightfall were fantastic. I enjoyed every single one of them. I mean, I still think to this day about the Callus fight, and I still see people posting on social media asking for help with the Callus fight, because Callus is such a tough boss to beat, but he's not unbeatable. Like, the missions themselves were awesome. We had the one where we had to ride our Sparrow through the pyramid ship. That was so cool. Or I guess it wasn't a pyramid ship, but we had to ride our Sparrow through the pyramid ship after killing some boss. I don't remember who it was. Like, the entire mission section, doing the actual missions themselves, were all very fun, very good, and they all had different feels. I think the one thing maybe Bungie could have done better, of course, would be like letting us go to a different planet outside of Neomuna, but also, I don't know, that's just personal preference. But Lightfall wasn't that bad because like the story missions were actually fun and entertainable. Okay, and I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about the story, you know, and the characters. I think the other like negative that Lightfall gets way too much hate for is like people are like, oh, it was just kind of this offshoot of a storyline, blah blah blah, like it didn't make any sense. Like, no, it did make sense. Like, Callus was an unanswered question for years, and finally we got closure to Callus's story, and it tied directly in with the Witness. Because you know, and I know I could see why people feel like the story was like just kind of out there, like out of the blue, and how like Neomuna kind of got pulled out of thin air. But the lore behind Neomuna, it was a hidden city. It was meant to be a hidden city for years and years and years. And then finally we get it revealed, you know, in the season right before by I think it was Clovis Bray himself revealed it. You know, so it's not just completely out of the blue. It was well written into the story, you know, why we went there, why Callus was there, he was looking for the veil, why the Witness, you know, it all ties together. So people that are saying it had no relevance to the story, like that's just factually incorrect. Like looking at the lore and stuff, like it does tie in with Destiny 2's story, and I think that it does a good job of tying it into there. But moving on from there, one of the things I did think could have potentially made the storyline better, and I know we're not supposed to do this because it's Hot Take Tuesday, but one of the things that could have made the storyline better was if they had killed off Nimbus instead of Rohan. I think that instead of carrying that lighthearted, goofy, rather annoying feeling throughout the story campaign, we could have seen a much more dark, like vengeful, so to speak. You know, if Nimbus died, Rohan would have been you know, mad, like, you know, oh, Nimbus was, Nimbus was just a kid. They didn't know what they were doing. Like, it's not right. We have to get vengeance on them. And I think it could have taken a similar turn to Forsaken and when Cade died, you know, but instead they killed off Rohan, and Nimbus was this, you know, lighthearted, kind of happy-go-lucky, kind of annoying character. I think that it could have been differently if they just swapped those two out. But yeah, also, of course, we got Neomuna. Neomuna is a fantastic location. You know, I know a lot of people talk mad hate on Neomuna. Oh, it's too hard. Like I shouldn't have to struggle in a patrol zone. Listen, if you don't want to struggle in a patrol zone, go to any other patrol zone. Like we have a bunch of them in game. Like it's okay, in my opinion, that there is this one location that is more difficult than others. It's okay that there's this one location where your power is capped and you struggle because the enemies are strong, or because you know your guardian is under level. That's okay. And I actually think that's a really nice take on the whole, you know, patrol zone mission thing, because not only did we get Neomuna as a patrol zone that has a more difficult power level, but also we got a bunch of stuff going on Neomuna. We had the Vex Offensive, you know, and stuff like, or Vex Offensive, right, and stuff like that are going on, public events that you can get exotics from, you can get really good weapons from. Like all of these things make Neomuna a very interesting location. Plus, of course, never mind the aesthetic. Like the aesthetic, I think that's 100% personal, like decision. Like if you like the aesthetic, awesome. If not, you know, maybe you don't like it as much. But I like the aesthetic of it. I thought it was pretty neat to finally get something out of the blue, go to a city where life had basically just shut down. Well, I guess technically not just shut down, because all the citizens are in the Cloud Arc or whatever. You know, weird stuff like that. But yeah, that's Neomuna. I think that it has something that's really lacking throughout Destiny 2, which is that difficulty in terms of its patrol zone. And again, I know not a lot of people like that, but at the same time, we need that in Destiny. I would like for them to go back and make every patrol zone rather, have that level of difficulty, with maybe the exception of the Cosmodrome, because that's where new lights are coming in at and stuff like that. But yeah, that's you know, that's talking about Neomuna. And of course, we can't forget Strand. Like Strand was a part of Lightfall, and Strand, in my opinion, still to this day is one of the best subclasses to use inside of PvE and PvP. It is so good. It is so fun. It was absolutely, I wouldn't say absolutely busted like Stasis, for example, but it was pretty strong when it came out. It got some nerfs, and it's still incredibly good, incredibly viable. And so, you know, I feel like people just forget that Strand came with Lightfall. And in my opinion, Strand, you know, when a new subclass comes out, that is what makes up a huge portion of you know, of the overall experience of the expansion itself, so to speak, because that is a fundamental thing that changes how we play the game going forward in Destiny 2 for however many years. So yes, like the narrative and the storyline is important, but I think Strand is equally as important. And if Strand shipped in a bad state, or if it was nerfed into the ground, I would say that, yeah, like maybe Lightfall is more disappointing, but it's not. Strand is fantastic. Strand is, in my opinion, right where it needs to be. Okay, so that's all I got to say about Strand. Of course, we also got some exotics here. The exotics all feel really good. Winterbite is a really awesome Winterbite is an awesome exotic. Final Warning is a very strong exotic. I think Final Warning honestly is slept on. Final Warning is so strong in PvE and PvP both. We got, of course, our Strand exotics, Surturacne's Facade. I see that almost anytime I'm seeing a hunter in the Crucible, they're using Strand Hunter in the Crucible, they're using Surturacne's Facade. Abiant Leap and Swarmers, both wonderful pairs of boots. I still use Abiant Leap in almost like in 90% of my Titan-based content, unless I'm using Syntheseps. But, you know, two different, you know, one's a hammer, one's a screwdriver, right? With that being said, though, and then of course Swarmers are just absolutely amazing for any type of Threadling build, and Threadling builds are so fun, and they're really good and stuff like that. So the exotics were great. The legendaries I would also say were fantastic. You know, Round Robin, I still see Round Robin being frequently used. You know, the aesthetic of the legendary weapons from Neomuna had that really attractive look. We got epical integration, or was that what it is? The hand cannon, solar hand cannon, stats for all, incandescent, phenomenal PvE hand cannon. I think it's got some great PvP perks. I know it has Eye of the Storm. I can't remember what the other perk is, but those are, I mean, we got good weapons. The exotic armor set looks pretty good in my opinion, which I know that's a very minor thing, but the exotic armor set looks good for all three characters. Overall, the loots from Lightfall, very good. It was very good. And then of course, Root of Nightmares. Root of Nightmares is a phenomenal raid. It is easily I'm trying to think where I'd put it. I would put it in probably like A tier in terms of raids. It is a very fun raid. It had challenge to it. It still has challenge to it, I should say. It's got phenomenal loot. The armor is out there. I don't personally care for it, but I definitely like that it is very unique. Like all around, it was a good raid. And I think that Root of Nightmares gets a lot of hate because so many people completed on day one. But let's be honest, guys, the only reason so many people completed Root of Nightmares on day one / the first 48, whatever it was, is because Thunderlord was bugged and it was dealing way more damage than it should have. Like if they had fixed the Thunderlord bug before they shipped that raid, I guarantee you that number would have been sliced in half, maybe by like 2/3. Okay. Root of Nightmares is a good raid. It's fun. It's got very interesting mechanics. I also like that it is sort of beginner friendly. It is one of the easier raids. I won't deny that, but I think that's great because that gives newer players an opportunity to get into the game. And of course, Lightfall saw a massive influx of brand new players. So I think including that raid with Lightfall was a great time to do so. Not saying I want every single raid to be as easy as that, but it was nice to get I shouldn't say easy, but a more simple, I think is a good way to put it, a more simple raid. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on Lightfall. I really think Lightfall, it gets way too much hate. Like people say, oh, it sucks. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the characters, particularly Nimbus, Rohan, and Osiris mainly. And Osiris really does it for me. They really did him dirty. Like he used to be a really awesome character. And then I feel like after Lightfall, I look at him just completely different as this rambling old man, so to speak. But with that being said, I want to hear your thoughts on Lightfall. Like, do you think Lightfall was as bad? Like if you heard my points here, are you thinking about it? You're like, oh yeah, maybe it wasn't as bad. Just let me know that on all that stuff down in the comments. Of course, if you like today's video, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.